Hello, thank you for joining me today on another very special episode of Caketastic Cakes. I'm Jen. I'm going to show you how to make Dory out of gum paste from Finding Nemo, Finding Dory. She was lost, they found her. She was found a few times actually. But anyway, all right. To get started, you're going to take blue gum paste. It's blue, your hands are blue, blue gets everywhere. It's a great color. You're going to make it pretty thick. I want to say it's not an inch thick, but darn close. Again, depending on how big you make her, she was a pretty good size for me. And shape her body into a big old teardrop. You're going to have a good point on the end, round it off on the other end. And then the edges that you cut that were at first flat, you see I made a flat cut right there. You're going to round and smooth them off just so you kind of soften them up. And make it a nice rounded off kind of teardrop, but leave those two sides flat. See? Isn't that lovely? Pat, pat, rub, rub. There you go. Okay, still going, still patting. So yeah, here we are. All right, once you get your teardrop, take your knife pretty much straight into the big fat butt part of the teardrop. You're going to make a slice. The slice is going to be Dory's mouth. You're just cutting it, not too much. Her mouth isn't all that big, but you cut it just so a nice straight cut, and then you kind of pinch it as you see I'm doing there a little bit to make it open up. Think of it kind of like when you were a kid and you would pinch those snapdragon flowers to make them open. It pretty much works exactly like that. I'm using that tool there to press down to kind of accent her lips to make them come out a little bit and to smooth out the bottom to give her the bottom of her mouth. And now she has a Dory mouth. Her mouth is a little bit pointy, so that's kind of what I'm doing here. But it doesn't stick out too far, and like I said, she doesn't have a big mouth, so a little bit. Just press it up, kind of hollow it a little bit of pinchy, and don't forget to make her happy because she's pretty much always happy, sometimes maniacally so. And this gum paste that I used, I forget the brand, it was something like Nicole's or something. I got it at one of the stores, AC Moore or Michael's, I forget which one, but oh my goodness, it's so soft. I mixed the blue color and it stayed soft for so long, so that's why like at the end she kind of gets a little squishy in the bottom. So yeah, I normally use satin ice and I was desperate, so I would kind of recommend not using that brand. I think it was called Nicole's, I'm not sure. I threw it away because I hated it so much. But anyway, as you see here, getting back onto track, I made eyes. I stuck my tool in. I don't know if you saw my Nightmare Before Christmas videos, but it's the same idea when you do Jack or Zero or Oogie even. Shove it in, lift it up, try to make a nice round eye cavity. And we will put eyeballs inside of her head, so she won't look quite so empty. And her eyes are a good size. They're not enormous, but they're pretty big and they're very round, and they look forward on her head. They don't go to the side like proper fish eyes should. So that's why I'm kind of doing this here. I'm trying to make them nice and big and round and just kind of rub it out nice and gentle. And there you go. Now you've got eye sockets and a mouth. And an awesome cut right there. You didn't even notice I changed shots or scenes, did you? Okay, this is black. The black is rolled out very thin, pretty much as thin as I could get it. Comfortably anyway, and still work with it. And the idea is I'm going to be putting the black stripe on either side of her body. Now when you do it, the black on her body goes behind. It kind of curves around the shape of her eye socket, and it goes down the side of her spine. If she had a spine, it doesn't cover it. It goes on either side, so her blue fin and everything sticks out. And I put it on her side, and I kind of just winged a pattern, traced it out. Winged it? I don't know the right term. The past term of wing it. Her black mark on the side, it, like you can see what I'm doing here. It kind of swoops down and then curves back up, kind of like if you're making an upside down mountain when you're like a little kid and you draw a mountain. And don't worry about it being too long, as the swoop kind of goes past that little hump, right, pretty much in the center of her back, or her side, I guess it would be. And then we're going to have a cut out circle in the middle of that upside down mountain there that we drew. And that's what I'm trying to do. When I put it up, I just put a mark in it with the pen, with my knife to indicate where I want the circle to be cut from. And then I'm using my little X-Acto knife. Cut it out, nice and easy. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of oblong, as you can see there. And there you go. So now I'm rolling out the black real thin again, and there's no way I could just trace it or not trace it and have it become the same size. So I flip it over, make sure you flip it over so you get the opposite angle going, and then traced it out very carefully, as you can see here. Cut out the circle in the center, and then stick them on. And like I said before, these two, when you put them on, they're not going to touch in the center. You got to leave that open. And I also mentioned if it's too long in the back, don't worry about it. We'll trim it off later, so that's not a big deal. See, I'm kind of trying to place it so that it curves around her eye. It shapes around her eye, goes down her side, down her back, but not to the middle, and then off to the end. See, didn't I do a good job? And yeah, it's not too hard. You guys can do this too. It's really not bad. But wait till you see the other end put on. Oh, yeah, that was a little too long, so I trimmed it. I think I mentioned that before. Just trim it. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned this already in case you're new to this, but I use a little bit of water on a paintbrush to just make it a little moist and then stick it on. You got to be careful with the black when you put the water on because it can run. It makes black smears on everything that it touches. So once you place it, make sure you got it in a good spot. You don't need to move it too much. If, however, you do move it and it leaves a black smear behind, just take that wet paintbrush, make sure you have nice clean water on it, and just kind of rub it over the black smear and it'll take it off. You'll see, it'll lift right up. And there you can see how I left the line of blue down her spine. Just filling in the eye sockets with white, just big balls of white. I made big eye sockets, now I got to fill it in. Her eyes are not bulgy, so don't have them sticking out real far. And just a little bit is good. And now I'm going to add her top teeth because for some reason she has a little row of white top teeth there. In order to do it, I gave her basically a palette before when I used the knife to press, or the tool there, to press her mouth when I was shaping it. So instead of worrying about cutting out a thin little rectangle and balancing it and all that other jazz, as you could see, I just took a little ball of white and smushed it up in there and shoved it all up into the top of her mouth so you can't even see it. And yeah, don't give her any lines on her teeth. It's all nice and smooth too. So that's a little tip for you. Pro tip. Okay, this is going to be her dorsal fin. It goes along pretty much the whole length of her back. So it's going to be a pretty good length, but it's also not very tall. I'm marking off the length there. It ends at an angle, so that's that angle I cut there. And it is, like I said, not very tall, so I cut it out, but I just made it shorter. As you can see, it won't stand as tall as it used to be. Using the knife blade, just press down carefully, make a bunch of little lines to indicate the little fin ridges or whatever they're called. And I also went across the top of the fin. Here we go, right there. So just going across the top, kind of at the same angle, trying to match it up with the lines so it actually looks right. Just to give her fin a little more detail, a little more dimension to it. And a little bit of water, and it'll sit right between those two black lines that you carefully placed, and she looks pretty darn good. Yeah, okay. I don't know what color I'm using. Oh, okay, this is a copper color. I'm just going to use it to color her irises of her eyes. I want to say they're not real big again, but maybe like half of the eye will be taken up with the space of the iris. As you can see, you don't want to fill it in all the way. She's not like a Disney princess where their eyes are huge and full of iris and color and everything. And she is very, very alert, as you can see. She has very good focus, or she's completely lost her mind. She looks a little derpy, as my son would say, right there. But she'll get better, don't worry. Okay, a little pupil always helps. Little black pupil, again, maybe half the size of the iris. You don't want it too big or too small. She's got just the right amount of, I don't know, stimulation going on in her brain. Just try to make them even. Try to make her look like she's looking in the same direction. And I don't know if you guys saw the Nemo video, but I had his fins kind of bent to the side and had him a little more twisty. I think I was making her talk there, like, hello, how you doing? You never know. You get bored sometimes doing these things. So, but with her body, she's very straight. She doesn't twist and flow around. She's very rigid, so that's why she's very streamlined when I made her. This is going to be her 2 little fins. I made a circle, and I cut it in half, and then I pinched off an edge, and then cut it flat, as you can see. And then I'm using the circle to cut out a wedge, so you basically end up with kind of a sickle-shaped, or, kind of crescent moony shaped. Now I cut out the same size circle in yellow. You just match it up to the little crescent groove, fit it, snug it right in there. And we're going to trim more off of there, so don't worry about that. It's not going to quite match up, as you can see, because we're not cutting it right in half like we did before, but that's okay. So that's going to become her fin. Just bear with me here. All right, take a little bit of black, real thin, and you're going to lay it over where the blue and the yellow merge together. It's not real skinny stripe, but so it's a good stripe. And you kind of wrap it around, and then when you come up and over, it folds up over the bottom of the yellow, as you can kind of see there. Again, with the knife, just make some impressions to look like fin ridges. Now I'm taking that same circle. All right, this is where it gets a little crazy because I started messing, but it came out good. And I trimmed off that pointy tip. I just rounded it off. And then I realized it was too fat, so I trimmed it off. And then I'm going to do one more little cut with a circle. Okay. Can't see through my hand, but you'll see in a second. I just kind of took another little nip out of the yellow. So now you've got, I have no idea, a wing shape almost out of it. And that's the shape of her fin. I have no idea how to describe it otherwise. You just got to follow along that. So where your yellow and blue to come together, cover it with the black again. Put your lines in it, just like you did before. And then you're going to trim off that edge. And it turns out you don't have to nip off that first part like I did before. I was just, like I said, I had been messing with it, trying to figure out how I was going to do it. So there you go. So you just press it on with a little bit of water. I have it sticking out a little bit, but not a lot. Okay, this is going to be her tail fin. Her tail fin was a huge pain in the bleep to make. So it took a lot of finagling and figuring, and it was a huge pain in the butt. And if I never have to make a dory butt fin again, I will be glad. What I did was I took 2 triangles, sandwiched them together, and pressed them together over either side of her butt. So there you saw it. I rounded it off a little bit. So that was literally it. This piece of black that I'm making, it's kind of triangle shaped. It's a little flat on top. It's going to cover the top of her fin. The black comes out of her body and goes over the top of the yellow fin. It kind of just outlines it. And that's all I did with it. So yeah, that was literally it. And then I added some lines with the knife, just like all the other fins, lines. Oh, that was that little spot that made me crazy. I mentioned this gum paste was really sucky and saggy and soft and squishy. It didn't hold its shape real well. But in theory, that was it. So easy, right? And if you like this video, please like it. Please subscribe. Check out my other videos I've got. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much. Bye.